everyone, and welcome to the Phriends Club Podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Fizz.
And my name is Charlotte.
And today's a super special episode because we are not alone. We are joined by a guest. Yeah.
Wow.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Ella. What else do the people want to know?
Start off maybe with how did you find Dan and Phil? Maybe as a good intro. How did you discover them?
I would identify as a new fanny. I don't claim to have a long heritage. I was around on Tumblr when they were very big in 2015 and 2016. I guess we'll talk more about Tumblr and all of that. But I didn't get into them until the gaming channel came back, and I was very stressed in this master's program that I'm getting into, and I think it was a Sims video that I saw first because I watch people play Sims on YouTube sometimes to unwind, and then I was like caught in some kind of, it felt like a spell was cast on me. like genuinely.
That's so relatable.
I don't know. I was like, what is it about these two 30-year-old?
Nothing has changed, huh? Like, that's how it was in 2012, and now that's how it is now.
And I was like, okay, I have to know everything about these people. And I hadn't really been a part of fandom spaces and Tumblr or gotten this into something since I was literally like 13 years old. And I don't know if it's the stress of my master's program or something in the air. You know, it's 2014 again. You know, we're at the 10th anniversary of 2014. But then I just had to understand everything. And, you know, I haven't watched all of their back catalog, but I've been using this podcast as a way to sort of go through at least the joint content. But I've watched everything since, certainly since the hiatus, and then like videos here and there before that.
Okay.
I try to keep up with what people consider to be canonical, but it's a lot, you know, it's a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think we discussed it in another episode. Like, I can't imagine getting into them now because there's so much content to catch up on. I'd feel so overwhelmed.
Yeah, but you pick up, I mean, there's a lot of things. It's an interesting fandom to join because of that history. There, like, not only is there all of the content, but there's a history of the fandom itself and like certain norms within the fandom and things like that. So it's interesting sort of coming in and not knowing that whole story and sort of learning as you go along why certain things are the way that they are and that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
That's very cool. And we're glad that our podcast has helped you to discover that.
Helped, what is the word? Like, you're like a drug dealer or something. You know, you helped continue my addiction. Enabled. Yeah, there it is.
We're very happy to enable you. We're very happy to enable you.
Seriously. Oh my god. Okay, so... First we'll talk about what Dan and Phil have been up to since the last time we spoke. And they've been suspiciously quiet, huh?
They
Like,
have
both
been
of them.
suspiciously
Yes.
quiet. What are they up to? What are they planning? I don't like it.
It's very nerve-wracking.
Well, there's the short after and a little bit after.
Yeah, Dan's
Dan
tweet.
hinted at on Twitter. That's very nerve-wracking.
Just always, I hate how cryptic they are about things because I can never like fully trust them. Like, what are you planning? What are you scheming? Just tell us. I hate all the build up to it because everyone just feels like a bit on edge and we're like waiting for something big to happen.
Yeah, and sometimes it doesn't happen, and then it's just very disappointing. But
Yeah.
This energy really reminds me of like Project X vibes.
Yeah.
It's giving Project X. Yeah.
But yeah, whenever they're suspiciously quiet, it's always a bit, what are you doing? What are you thinking about, Dan and Phil?
Yeah. I don't think what they were hinting at was that drop of the second Dan and Phil Beats album, but yeah.
No, that was suspiciously like tame. That just sort of like dropped and then they went.
They're building their catalog, I think.
They really are. Get them a Grammy. When are they going to be nominated for a Grammy?
They have to break out. You know what we have to do? I just can't wait until someone's like, who are these Dan and Phil Beats people? They're really great, you know?
Yeah, and then they're just on the charts. Do you remember that they used to do the chart on BBC.
They
Ella, by the
did,
way,
yeah.
if you want content, I would say like go back and watch or listen to their radio shows. They are impeccable. They're so good.
Yeah, I definitely have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did used to do the charts though, didn't they, before their radio show? And I remember they used to do like stupid challenges. I remember that one challenge they did where I think it was Phil was putting ice cubes down Dan's t-shirt, and Dan was trying to read out like the top albums of like that week. That's the only one I can remember.
Yeah, they could never be normal about like anything.
I saw a post on Tumblr actually the other day. It was like a post of them. They did like some weird, bizarre, like obstacle course in like the Radio 1 green room, like while they were recording. And like I can't remember who posted it, but the comment was like, "This is what." Because obviously, if you're in the UK and you want to have a television license, you have to pay, but all that money is basically funding the BBC. So it's like, this is what your television license money is going towards, to fund Dan and Phil like rolling around on the floor.
I've always wondered that because I moved to the UK to do my program, and you get a thing in the mail that's like, you have to pay your television license. And being from the US, I'm like, what is this? The government telling me that I have to pay to watch TV. But if I knew that the money was going to Dan and Phil, then obviously I would pay it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely bonkers. So, Fizz or Ella, whoever wants to chip in, what video are we discussing today? Or videos, should I say, plural videos today?
It's a double feature. Ella, why don't you tell us as a special guest?
Of course. So we are doing 2 videos. The first is on Phil's channel, AmazingPhil, my Tumblr tag, posted July 1st, 2014. And the second is on Dan Is Not on Fire, Dan and Phil versus Tumblr, posted July 11th, 2014.
Yep, we're doing the Tumblr tag videos, finally. And also, I think it's 2013.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the 2013.
Okay, I wrote it down incorrectly. I was going to be like, I thought I was doing so well, professional podcaster.
That's okay.
You're literally so fine. That's fine. But yeah, we are doing the Tumblr tag videos, which seems super fitting because the last video that Phil posted was his fan fiction video. And we're sort of going to get into that, I think, in this episode.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think my first note, just in general, about both of these videos, because they came within like 2 weeks of one another, is they are so like of the time. Like they're such a time capsule of 2013 where like Tumblr was your whole life. And it's like, oh my God, I need my blog to be perfect. I hope Dan and Phil follow me. Like, and just like what you were posting, like people were like obsessed with Tumblr. People still are now, but I think definitely like 2012, 2013, it was like Tumblr is life. This is where I live.
Yeah. And like people had like super curated like themes and all of that. And like Dan and Phil definitely, well, Dan at least like definitely like leaned into it as well. Like he needed his queue to be perfect and all of his posts to be lined up perfectly.
Such a bizarre thing that he used to do, that he'd like queue up posts to like go out, and then everyone would be like, oh my God, Dan's queue's coming on Tumblr, what has he posted this time?
Oh, that's so funny. It's so interesting, the difference between the internet now and the internet at the time, even in terms of like the form that it takes. Like on Tumblr, everything's very personalized and you want your blog to look perfect. I think in one of these videos, there's like the TARDIS opens and Phil is behind it, you know, and now we sort of operate on platforms that have their own look and then you post on there. But the idea of it's much more like, you know, things that came before in terms of like, I think like MySpace and other, sort of Tumblr was an intermediary transition between the sort of completely personalized internet and the internet as it is platform based.
Yeah, I didn't actually like think of that, but that's so true. That I think that's why also I am still on Tumblr. Like I will go occasionally on it because I like everything I see on it is something that I've chosen to see, and like there's no algorithm sort of as such telling me what to look at. And also then my blog, Yeah, and also my blog still looks the way that I want it to. And I have a tagging system that works. And it's just, I love Tumblr.
I loved hearing about your guys' tagging systems in the last video. So good.
I'm trying to repress those memories.
So, I mean, I went back to look at my old Tumblr blog because I have a different one now. And I joined in at the end of 2013. So a little bit after these posts were posted. And it's very difficult to look back.
Painful.
It is.
Saw some Tumblr posts that was saying that, whereas on other platforms, the disinformation that you get is served to you by algorithms, whereas on Tumblr, I get to choose which disinformation that I want to get, which I thought was fun.
That's very true.
Yeah. My first actual thing was about his introduction, which was his usual sort of I need my glamorous assistant, and then he said,
yes, oh my god.
He said, if Dan is on fire, who would have guessed it? And I think this is around the time where those jokes sort of started, where they were like, who else is going to be here? And, it's obviously Dan, or it's obviously Phil. I think this is the first video where he sort of said that in the ones that we're covering, at least.
Yeah. And it's still Phil's really convoluted way of introducing Dan to a video. Like the fact that Dan was just lying down out of shot and then had to pop up.
The first thing I have is that realizing that there's a little bit of Dan's leg in the I didn't see it. There's you can see a little bit of flash of color, and then when he comes in, you can see that was part of his leg. And I was like, his leg was in the video the whole time. I don't know why.
And also we have Dan in his llama hat, the beloved llama hat.
Gosh.
Which was official merch, I think, at this point. I don't know if AmazingPhil shop had started yet, or if this was OG llama hat.
I don't know, actually. No, I think they were still district lines because I ordered my first piece of Dan and Phil merch in the Christmas of 2012, and then it arrived. It was the purple t-shirt with them cute logo illustrations of them on.
Right.
And that arrived January, February 2013. So Dan and Phil shop did not exist at this time. So the hat wouldn't, I don't know if the hat was merch or if they did do that on district lines at this time.
I don't think so, but that's good Charlotte lore drop there.
My first piece of Dan and Phil merch that I still have. It's tucked away.
Oh. Vintage. I think people would pay good money for it.
I don't think they will, but thank you. I can't imagine that getting any more than £10 on eBay. I'm going to be honest with you, Fizz, but I appreciate the sentiment.
I don't know. Maybe I just give them too much credit in that way.
But I say that, I mean, everyone, speaking of merch, going off on a tangent, when everyone now is obsessed with the purple DMP hoodie that they released in 2018, and people are like, oh my god, I would give my firstborn child to own this hoodie. But I don't remember it being that that exciting when they released it. So maybe.
Yeah, same. Ella, as a new fan, would you buy the purple DMP hoodie?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask about the llama hat. I think I would buy a purple hoodie.
The llama
hat might be a little. I just don't know. I mean, I don't go to enough formal events to find a time to wear it. Don't go to enough red carpets where it would be appropriate, So
I do own one. I don't think I've ever worn it. I think I won it. I went, Dan and Phil did some pop-up shops in London when around their tours, and I think they did giveaways or something, you would win a prize, and I think I won one then. So I've never worn it, but it's in my room, tucked away safely.
Oh.
I would give one to my younger sister because she was an original Dan and Phil fan.
Wow.
But dropped off in 2019. Wow. And yeah, she's the person I first admitted to. And but I would give it to her. I think she would appreciate it. Yeah.
That's cute. That's crazy that your younger sister was into them before
I
you
know.
were.
Yeah, I'm always late to the trend because I think that I'm too cool for things, and then I realize I'm not.
And now here you are.
And here I am. I missed the old Tumblr color.
Oh my god, yes, I forgot that they changed that. I remember everyone was like freaking out when they changed the shade of blue.
It's like black now, basically. Yeah. Not the same.
Terrible graphic design.
But beloved, like right now?
Yeah.
Beloved. Not right now, the old one, I mean.
The old one, yeah.
Yeah.
Back to the video, after that was a very long tangent about Dan and Phil merch. I mean, we get... My next note was about the fan fiction that they were reading out. They read out that, a paragraph of a lovely vampire fan fiction, which I think was... I suppose like a big thing at the time of them reading fan fiction, because I know that there's always been sort of lots of controversy around whether they support fan fiction or not, which they do, by the way. If you want to write fanfic about them, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, literally. They, as Phil said in his video, just don't be weird about it, which to me, I think that just means don't go around showing it to them, because their whole boundary is sort of just you do you, we'll do us.
Yeah.
It's
and
fine.
If they want to read it, that's on them. They can find that in their own personal time.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me. I just don't want to know that if I wrote a fanfic, I just wouldn't want to know that they read it, you know?
Yeah.
They're welcome to, just don't tell me. But the vampire thing really reminded me of Phil's vampire werewolf.
Yeah.
Weighted creature fan fiction.
Right. And at that point, we didn't know that he was a creative writer. And he had his own works.
His own oeuvre. Yeah.
I was going to say as well, the vampire fic also reminded me of Dan's fanfiction, The Urge, that he wrote for Tabernhof.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a theme.
That he wrote it yeah, I think he took inspiration. I'll just say it. I think he was inspired a little bit.
Oh, definitely. Maybe Dan read some of Phil's Buffy fanfic, and that's why Dan wrote the fic, The Urge.
Maybe.
The pipeline.
Crazy.
How the urge came to be.
It's sharing one brain cell and it's passing around, and it's vampire fan fiction. Yeah.
The vampire brain cell.
Oh, I have a note that says the flower crowns and a moment in time. That's very time capsule-y to me, because at that point they don't have no idea. And then they did a whole video being soft pastel edits and punk edits and all that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I made another note about that. The flower crown, punk edits were such a huge thing. And it's so funny to think back now that we'd freak out over an edit of them with tattoos or with flower crowns. Were we that starved?
There's a whole joke in this video and in the other video about what's going on with the flower crowns. We don't understand what's going on with the flower crowns.
And now, looking back now, I don't understand either. Why?
I don't.
Yeah. Same.
I think maybe it was part of the kind of, if I was going to try and, do a historiography of the flower crown, it kind of goes back to the hippie revival. That's part of the hipster aesthetic. At least that's kind of maybe how it came into the Tumblr ethos. And then obviously the sort of soft boy connotations. But yeah, I don't know.
The small bean connotations.
Small bean, flower crown.
Right. That's the one.
Yeah, definitely definitely a pipeline there for sure. Wow, we have an intellectual in our midst. That's crazy.
No. Oh no. I'm just using big words that make me sound smart. No. There's some reference to Phil's third nipple that gives him psychic powers, which I thought was interesting. Sort of part of Phil being a psychic, which has been...
Maybe he does actually have a secret third nipple.
Maybe
he photoshopped that in the nude.
Got rid of it. I can't let people know about my secret third nipple.
Let people know, yeah.
The big secret is out.
I wanted to go back to a point that I've written where they were looking at a Doctor Who edit. I think Dan was edited on David Tennant's body, and it was just like a picture of Phil.
Yeah.
And they were just like kind of bantering about it. And then Dan said, I would have preferred Phil on Rose Tyler. And my immediate thought was like two things. I said, say more. And also, I think this is soft launch of the gay.
Yes,
Right?
very soft launch of the gay. Though I think I saw some comments. I think that was on something like that. There was like some comments where people were like, "Oh my god, Dan said I want to see Phil on Rose Tyler, but Rose Tyler was the love interest. What does this mean?"
What does it mean? Whatever does it mean?
So mysterious.
It's so funny that, like, I mean, we still do this now, that we would like analyze every little thing that they said, and we'd be like, right, well, Dan said this, so he must mean that he wants to be David Tennant, Doctor Who, and he wants Phil to be Rose Tyler because he's in love with Phil.
Oh my god. And this is, you know what? They have every right to make fun of us for all of this nonsense. Like,
Yeah, they do.
We're all in on the joke now, you know, we can all, it's great.
It's great.
But then there's also where, was it that Dan says that Phil is more like Donna Noble, but then Phil says to Dan, like, oh, we should put our hands against the wall, and Dan's like, Rose Tyler. So, you know, Phil wants to be Rose Tyler too.
It all makes sense.
Just inwardly.
It all
Someone
makes sense.
write the AU.
Yeah. I'm so sure there's a Doctor Who AU somewhere.
Oh, there definitely must be.
Oh,
yeah, someone's definitely got to have written that in the midst of 2013, 2014.
But this one was a pretty tame one. I think Phil's video was very tame. I
literally wrote that exact same thing, Fizz. Phil's video is so tame, and it's just filled with nice art.
Yeah, literally. And I wanted to bring that up actually. Like, I think it's more in Dan's video, but every time they see artists, like actual like work, they appreciate it, like whether it's like very beautiful art or just like, even if it's like in air quotes weird, they still try their best to be like, oh, I love the coloring on this, or I love whatever. They're not like genuinely weirded out about it, or at least they don't show it, which I think is a very nice thing as creators to do.
Oh yeah, definitely, I agree.
Yeah,
but they've always been like that, haven't they? Like supportive of
the
fandom and the fandom works.
You just don't see that, is what I'm like trying to say. Like with creators, there's always like a subset of art creators who kind of like poke fun at their fans, and I'm just like, I mean, I guess you can do that. You're free to do whatever you want, but like, I was not raised this way. I was raised by Dan and Phil, so.
I suppose it maybe fits in with the fact that like Dan and Phil themselves were seen as like the outcasts and the weirdos.
Yeah.
So they want to nurture that environment where people don't feel like ostracized for being a bit weird or being a bit nerdy.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I don't know how much we knew about this at the time, but like they were also big fans of things. And, you know, Dan has said like, I'm a weirdo too, you know, I'm a pervert too, or something like that. Yeah. Like, so they have experience, you know, being really into something and getting really excited and wanting to create something. So I think it comes from that place of mutual understanding.
Yeah. I think even more so back then, it was such a huge thing that they were like fans of TV shows and like bands. Like, even more so then than I suppose now. Like, if you ask me now what their interests were, I'd be like, no, I've got no idea really. But like back then, it was such a huge like, oh my god, they both love the Avengers, they both love Marvel, they like My Chemical Romance, and they watch American Horror Story. Yeah,
like we knew everything about them. Like, so like if there was like a huge like pop cultural event happening, we'd be like, Dan and Phil are definitely gonna talk about this or be involved in this somehow. But now you're right, like we have no idea, we have no clue what they're into.
Mysterious men, that's what they are.
Yeah, we just lost sort of like that I think it's because we've lost the weekly live shows, honestly.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Can they come back, please? If we're bringing everything back, we might as well.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Bring back live shows.
Would you guys prefer live shows or podcast?
Oh, I don't know, actually.
Ooh.
I suppose there'd be like one in the same, because you just sit and... I suppose I prefer like a podcast maybe because you can listen to that anytime. Like you don't have to be there at a certain time to watch it. But obviously I like the live show aspect that you get to see their faces. That was nice.
I mean, they can also film podcasts, to be fair. My thing is, like, I love contributing to a live show and, like, being in the chat and being like, I remember if I was lucky enough to catch one because our time zones are so different, I would be in the chat and I'd be like, oh my god, Phil read my question out, whether he did or not.
It's also like a fandom event. I don't, like, at least with Phil's birthday live stream, it was really fun to like have everyone get together and be experiencing things at the same time, and you know, be live blogging on Tumblr or whatever, or seeing people's posts as things were happening. It was just felt like we were going through a communal experience together in a different way than when a video drops or something.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it definitely nurtured that like community environment. Like everyone on the timeline would like be talking about it and like live tweeting everything that Dan said. Like you were all there in one space together.
Exactly. But podcasts would be super cool as well. It's just them yapping, which I love.
I say yes to a podcast, and because that means when people search on Spotify Dan and Phil podcast, ours would also come up so people can listen to ours.
Yes, exactly.
Just doing it for our own gain.
Yeah, literally. My fear is that they will find it though. I mean, we've been suspicious that they do listen to the pod. But what if they like actually find it? That's fine.
They like leave a comment. Great episode, guys. I love this video too.
Oh no.
One of sort of my last notes about Phil's Tumblr Tag video, and they do this in Dan's as well, so I sort of suppose that they link together, which is why we combined the videos, because they're both essentially the same. I just found it so wild. Obviously, I know it was more just of the time. I just found it so wild how, like, disgusted they were at all the makeup edits of themselves, and, like, when people edited them as, like, girls and, like, put makeup on them and, like, made their hair longer, they were both like, oh god, this is so gross, you look so weird with makeup on, oh, that's disgusting. Whereas like if they haven't done anything like that now, but it's just so wild to me. I suppose obviously times have changed, like they've both grown up, they both come out, whether that's had like an impact on how they see that, but I just think it's so crazy to see those such like adverse reactions to like makeup edits, to how I know that they'd react now to that.
I think actually I have no clue. I know if they saw it now, their comments would be more like, oh, I could do the makeup better than this, possibly.
Yeah. Well, they'd be something along the lines of, oh wow, I look great with eyeliner on.
Yeah. Like I'm slaying.
One comment that Phil makes that, and this might be in the other video, that's like, oh, Dan's looks better. Why do you look pretty and I look like this?
Yeah.
But I think that's the closest to like a kind of positive comment.
Yeah, I think it's this one. He calls Dan an attractive blonde.
But I think there's a video, and I was just watching this recently, like a Facetune video on the Dan and Phil games, but I think it was 2017 Face App, where they do where there's like girl versions, and it's much more positive in 2017.
Yeah. Again, I think it's just like of the time, like 2012, 2013. It was like, got a man in makeup? Oh, scandal.
Yeah, it used to be such a thing. In like content and stuff, you'd be like, I do my brother's makeup challenge. Or whatever.
Yeah, oh my god, that's true, yeah. That was like a thing that people would do.
Yeah. Very
Crazy.
2013.
Very,
Yeah.
very 2013.
I have a tiny thing, but like we can also not talk about it. But there's a bit where they're scrolling through Phil's tag, and there's a bunch of you now screenshots, and I think he was just like, you know, and Dan goes, don't step on the you now. So I
He
think
did
that
say that.
melody of like the Rave Tree song is just like constant in the house.
Embedded into their brains, never to
But-
escape.
Yeah, but that's my last sort of significant note of this video.
Ella, did you have any final thoughts?
There was, yeah, I think that's all my thoughts. I have zero thoughts on their outfits besides the fact that they should do better. But maybe I'm too. Now I feel like they dress so much better, so my standards might be higher. But
That's true.
Yeah, they dress like complete like boys. Yeah, at this point, like it was just a t-shirt and shorts. There was really not that much going on.
Phil had a nice checkered shirt on though. A very good basic for Phil.
Yeah,
it's a classic Phil.
Yeah, but like a checkered shirt for Phil is like a plain white t-shirt for anyone else.
That's
like,
very true.
Yeah, but it is a nicer one. I will agree with that.
My final thoughts on the video were the line right at the end that Phil says after the end screen, where he says to Dan, "You've lost one of your ball sacks."
Is it after the end screen?
Yeah, there's bits after the end screen.
What? Hold on. Pause the episode. Hold on. What? Has there been like an entire bit in the like for years that I just don't know? Huh? Don't mind me. Like I'm just gonna. Yeah. I'm gonna look for it. Yeah.
How did you miss that? Always know you need to wait till after the end screen, Fizz.
I waited for Dan's one. I know there was a bit there.
And you call yourself a Philly.
I'm such a fake. Hold on. Ew, hold on. Oh, yeah. That's the most replayed part as well. I'm so stupid. Oh! Okay, yeah, sorry. I have seen this. I just did not see it in the chat. Oh my god. Okay, it's fine. I'm not a fake. I just did not see it this time. Sorry.
But yeah, I enjoyed that. I think very reminiscent of their banter now on like the gaming channel of Phil saying an unintentional innuendo and Dan being like, "Please stop saying words."
Right.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I had one last thought about this video, which is when Phil says to Dan in the Fantastic Foursome edit, "You look so happy with your new boobs."
He really did.
He really did. And that reminded me of the Twitter the Twitter video that they did recently with Dan holding the beer steins and Phil saying, "You suit it weirdly," you know.
Yeah.
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 I would just like to highlight one comment that I found on this video that I feel like encapsulates the entirety of 2013 Tumblr fandom, or just the fandom in general. I feel if Dan and Phil hugged, then the whole of Tumblr would just explode with feels.
They're not wrong. They are not wrong, as we will see in the future.
That could be the title page for Tumblr, Dan and Phil at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as well, I've just had a revelation. Like, I think we were just so obsessed with seeing them have any sort of, like, physical touch because we didn't see them touch. Like, which is why we freaked out over any little, like, hand on shoulder. So, like, they may mock us now that we freak out over casual touching, but we were starved for years.
Yeah, it's like how resources like rare minerals increase in value when they're more rare. You know, the value of seeing Dan and Phil touch increases because of its rarity. You know.
Yeah. So it's like funny that we were so.
Demand.
Yeah. So it's funny that we were so like obsessed with like, oh my god, we have to see them hug, but like we weren't getting anything. So people just wanted to see them have some like physical touching.
Yeah. They also like held hands at one point for a game. I remember, and you were like, "Oh my god, they're holding on so tightly," or whatever. It's crazy.
So Dan and Phil versus Tumblr, uploaded 2 weeks after Phil's because Phil is a trendsetter.
And they definitely didn't plan this, but
Definitely not.
Yeah.
My first note about this was the fact that it is only 6 minutes long, which I find insane.
Yeah, because usually when they do like videos that are are similar in theme, Dan's are usually a lot longer. Like even baking videos that Dan does are longer. But you're right, this is like so short. And it didn't feel short though. They like got a lot of content in.
They did.
Crazy. My first note is nothing to do with the video as such because I was taking notes. I just said Dan talks so fast.
He's a yapper, Fizz. He was born to be a yapper.
He's always been a yapper. He always will be.
So he was destined to be.
He did a phew while he was calling Phil.
He did. Oh my other note about this was they looked so much better in this video than they did in the Phil's video, and I think it must just be the lighting in the office. They were glowing.
Were they also filming during the day or something? I think with Phil's video, they just sort of put a camera on the coffee table and just went, okay, it's fine. Let's go.
Phil doesn't care about getting angles or lighting. He was like, yep, just film it.
Yep. And Dan was like, no, this must be perfect. This angle has to be from here, and the lights have to be bouncing off these walls.
And he is right. And he is right.
And he's right. No, I support it. But I just find it very funny.
I think as well, I feel like this was one of the first, if not the first video they filmed in the office. I know they did live shows in there. I think they might have done some live shows before. But I feel like in terms of actual like main channel videos, this was one of the first, maybe? I might be completely wrong, but I don't have an insight.
No, definitely. If not the first, then definitely one of the first. Because, again, like, Downfall Games doesn't exist at this point. So they're just using it to do live shows and edit stuff, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. That's cool. And it's like a completely different angle as well. Unless Dan was doing internet support crew at this point.
Yeah, I'm just having a look back through his back catalogue to see, which obviously isn't going to take that long at all. No shade. All said
I find
with
it
love.
funny, I don't know, is that Dan calls Tumblr a blogging website with quotes around it. And I'm like, what does that mean? What do you imply?
Like,
I
what
wonder
do you
because,
think
like,
yeah. Well, yeah.
I suppose maybe like the traditional like description of blogging would be like writing about like a topic, but reblogging pictures of Dan with lots of chins is maybe not seen as, you know, informative content.
Blogging.
One of my like notes like immediately was that what the hell, he's 22 here, because they had that edit of him with the chins.
Yes.
And it said, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 22. I forgot that he turned 22 in 2013. That's insane.
I also wrote this as a no because I don't understand how he's 22.
That's crazy.
He posted, I don't know if you've seen this, Ella, at all, but there's this Vine, because at this point Vine still existed, right? So he posted a Vine of him listening to 22 by Taylor Swift when he turned 22. And it was just like this 6-second video of just him staring blankly at the camera. yeah, it's like peak comedy at that point and also now. Yeah.
Yes, that's very good.
It's so funny that, like, I remember watching that Vine. I was like, oh my god, he's so old. He's a grown up. He's a real adult.
I also didn't know how to cook at 22, you know, and if I got famous at 22, maybe I'd never learn how to cook, you know.
Do you know what? So true.
Yeah.
I'll never stop thinking about that. I was like, Dan and Phil, I can come to your house and show you how to use the oven if you need help.
Yeah, but we discussed in another episode, if you do that, the entire of Deliveroo in London will go out of business and they won't be able to make any money. The economy will crumble. London will fall. Another note that I made was, I love that even back in 2013, we were making fun of the awful square haircut that Dan had. And then, like, even now, we're still making fun of how awful the square hair was.
Yeah, and something that just hit me was, it's the 2011 hair. And at that point, that hair was not that far off. It was like 2 years later that he looked that much better. That's crazy.
He had a big glow up.
Yeah, he like really, really did. Good for Dan.
Oh, and there's also a note I have is about people posting pictures of him with his pants, you know, showing, or you know, in the UK, pants showing when his US pants have gone down too low, and I think Phil says, you need to get a good belt. And Dan says, that's not how it works. Again, I think, what do you mean, Dan? That's not how it works.
That is literally what a belt does.
What it is for? What do you mean?
I made a note on that as well, but I wrote, I quoted him, like, my butt is all over the internet. And then I wrote, it's well documented on the pod, like, Dan's pants his trousers that don't work are friends of the pod. Essentially, since episode 1, they have been there.
They have. He's shown. Oh, I think it was in the reaction videos they did to Pin Off. He's like, I showed crack on the internet.
Mr. Daniel hasn't even shown crack.
Oh my god.
Sister Daniel has shown a lot more in that baking video they did. Like, many questions. I have so many questions.
He continues to pretend it's accidental. Yeah.
He's an exhibitionist. What can we say? He just loves to show off. I think going off as well what we were saying, that Phil's is like so much tamer. Like, this video is just so weird. Like, I don't understand how just so much random and bizarre things just came up, like, on the Tumblr tag. And I don't know if he just chose to show the weirder stuff to make out like it was a bit crazier, or if that was generally what the tag looked like.
No. So I remember, in his description, he mentioned in the description of the video, he's like, I liked all of the ones that I enjoyed, like, looking at the most, and that's what we're looking at, because the entire tag is just filled with apparently, like, Imagine blogs and stuff.
Bring those back.
Fair enough, I guess. But I feel like he robbed us of, like, very funny moments of him reading out Imagines, and he should have just kept it.
He should have kept them in. They were the backbone of fandoms back in 2013.
The video has 11 million views apparently.
What? My god.
Wow.
That's almost as much as Big. What?
Yeah, that's why I made that
Which video had the most cultural impact on society? Big or Dan and Phil versus Tumblr?
Who can say?
It's true. Oh my god.
Which one did Dan work harder on? You know,
the 6-minute video or the 45-minute video?
But I definitely found this video harder to watch than the Phil video in terms of the
cringe.
Cringe, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as well, like, obviously the iconic, them reading out the skin fic, which I remember at the time was like such a huge thing. Everyone was like, what on earth? Like, how on earth do you know that this exists? Why are you reading this out? You can't let the people know about this fic. Please stop saying words.
Yeah, it was like the fandom had two sort of like milk fic. No, is milk fic ours? No.
No, I think that was that Panic at the Disco one? Or like My Chemical Romance?
It was one of those, yeah.
Something like that.
Ours was ours was the hat fic and the skin fic.
And there's a chair fic as well.
Were those on Wattpad?
They were.
I don't know. I think
Tumblr.
I don't know what they were originally loaded to, because I like found them just they'd been like re-uploaded to something, so I don't know who like originally wrote them. Imagine being those writers. Like, where are they now? What are they doing?
Oh no!
Where are they now?
On PhDs in biochemistry, you know.
Like
running their corporations.
What if the writer of the skin fic is like an award-winning journalist now? We'll never know.
Literally.
Never know.
If you are the writer of the skin fic and you are listening to the podcast, please let us know if you would like to be a guest on an episode.
So we can interview
I should do an exclusive interview, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
a
just
Where
insane.
Are They Now episode. Yeah.
But again, the complete opposite. Phil was so disgusted by this one. We said earlier they were so supportive of fan fiction, but Phil was very rightly so disgusted by this one. But Dan got so into it. He was passionate. He was acting things out. He changed his tone of voice. He was loving life. He performed that like it was a monologue.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just a sicko. Affectionate.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yep.
I wanted to go back actually. I think just before that, there's a edit of him and Jennifer Lawrence.
I was also going to talk about this.
Basically, there's like two parts to this, right? So he looks at that and he's like, "Oh, me and Jennifer Lawrence getting married. That's not at all what I think about every day," which is like, haha, hindsight. That's a good joke. But then 2 seconds later, he scrolls down and there's this picture of Niall from One Direction looking at him, and he makes a joke about there being like erotic eye contact, and it's like, okay, Dan, I have your number. Like, this is also soft launch of the gay to me.
The duality of man.
I also think it's interesting that it says something about their popularity at the time, that the memes seem to be all about how Niall was freaking out about meeting Dan, and not about like Dan freaking out about meeting Niall. That like, you know, that people were imagining that Niall would be like so flustered upon, you know, meeting Dan Howell. And that just reminds me of the like, "Hey buddy, you in London," you know.
What has Dan done to these men?
Actually, all of these men are obsessed with Dan Howell. I wouldn't be surprised.
And rightly so.
Rightly so.
We didn't ask at the beginning of the episode, which we do ask all of our guests, Ella, would you class yourself as a Danny or a Philly?
Oh, I mean, I love them both. I am a Danny in my heart, I think.
Oh no!
I'm sorry.
It's still 2-1 to you. It's still 2-1 to you, Fizz, on the guest front.
That's true. I still have, like, a bigger team. It's alright.
And I feel like Ross counts for at least 2 Phillies.
Yeah, for sure. God. Becky and Jessica? What a throwback.
Yes.
Icons. Legends.
That actually reminded me of some Philippa and Sister Daniel art that I've seen recently.
You have to show it to us later.
Oh, I can show. Yeah,
incredible. Good. Lesbian icons, Becky and Jessica were. When will they come back?
When Dan decides to stuff his shirt, I guess. Honestly, this is not, like, when I think about it, Sister Daniel, like, hot nun Sister Daniel word, like, it's not the first time he's like dressed up in I don't want to say drag because it's not drag, but like as a woman, I guess is what I mean. Yeah. I completely forgot about them. But yeah, legends.
Yeah, I feel like he answered a question about them on tour. I feel like someone asked him, how are Becky and Jessica doing? And he was like, oh, they're great. They're living their best lesbian life.
Good for them. There's not a lot. Like, I don't have a lot of notes for this one, actually. I was just mostly trying not to cringe. Yeah.
One of my final notes was Dan looks very cute in this video. Also, I loved the sexy end screen dance, and I think that he should bring that back.
I think so also. Now that it's a bit more appropriate as well.
He would do a great sexy end screen dance now.
Oh, gosh. That's just reminding me of when he did the wob dance on that video recently.
The gaming channel, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, after you said that, I do fully agree that he should bring it back. I think he's more shameless now. So I think he would do it. Yeah.
You say that, but I did ask him on tour at one of the pre-show Q&As, please bring back the sexy end screen dance, and he read the question out and then ripped it in half and didn't answer.
Oh no!
I think I must have traumatized him.
What's that? When they were reacting to fan Twitter, they read out that tweet. I think it was Ross's tweet where it was like, apart from Oppenheimer, which other scholar do you know that doesn't acknowledge like his earlier work? And it's like a big
So Dan.
I hope one day he embraces his past.
Me too.
I think my last note on this video was that he says at the end, "This is all my fault. I'm so sorry if my videos have influenced you in any way." And this just reminded me similar to the Twitter video, where it's just realizing that their influence of their comedy and, you know, that they take some responsibility for the way that people are the way they are, but also especially realizing, you know, it's like, did we raise you? You know, like, so sorry.
Yeah, they definitely have to take some responsibility. Like, I don't think that we'd be this weird if they hadn't influenced us to be this weird. And if anything, they've encouraged it.
Yeah, 100%. Like, they would ask for stuff like this, like for art, like in terms of just art. I'm saying they would be like, send us your best or your weirdest or just stuff that you want us to see. And because they were so interactive with us, like they would like on Twitter or on Tumblr, I think like it just encouraged people to make more insane stuff for them to see, or just like for the community, which is nice. Question mark.
So some outfit ratings for this video. I'm giving, again, Phil's wearing his Gengar t-shirt, which he's worn a lot before, so it's getting like a mid sort of like 6 out of 10 from me because we've seen it before, but he looks good in purple.
Yeah, same. Ella, you let us know because you've never ranked.
Well, I agree that he looks good in purple. I think the maroon is an okay color on him. I think I like the brighter purples on him, but the maroon is okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we have Dan in a lovely Pac-Man t-shirt in bright red, which is getting a 7 out of 10 for me, just purely because of the colour, because he does look nice in colour.
Same, actually. I was going to give it like 7 to 7.5 for the same reason.
Yeah, I think the color is nice. It reminds me of the Interactive Introverts red hoodie.
That was such a good hoodie. I hope he still owns that.
Really good.
Same. But yeah, I wish he'd worn more color at the point. I know like what his branding is, but
wear color, please, Dan.
Please.
I feel like I can't complain because my closet is all black as well, and this is something that I relate to about Dan. Because when you wear colors, you have to make the colors match each other, and that's just too much. You know, you wear black,
it's all matching.
Wear all black. Yeah,
it's all matching.
That's very true. I find it very funny that I mean, they both look good regardless because they're good, like they're attractive people. But I find it funny that Dan suits color, but Phil suits like
That
black
is
and
really
like
funny,
monochromes.
yeah.
It's so funny, and I know it's funnier knowing that Dan hates that Phil looks so good in black, and he doesn't wear any ever, and vice versa. I think.
Yeah, Phil does look really good
Yeah.
in black.
Those black sparkly jumpers.
That Dan probably gives to him. Is that confirmed?
I think it
Yeah,
is
I think-
in the new outfit video.
Yeah, Dan's definitely
mentioned.
given him a lot of sparkly jumpers.
Interesting. Video
So,
ratings.
Yeah, video ratings. So the first one, Phil's My Tumblr Tag video. Fizz, how many llama hats out of 10 would you give My Tumblr Tag?
I would give this a solid 6.5. 6.5.
6.5. That's a solid.
Yeah.
Ella, how many llama hats out of 10 would you rate My Tumblr Tag?
I would probably also give it a 6 out of 10 Tumblr hats. Or 6.5.
What about you,
I'm
Charlotte? How many llama hats?
I also think, 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
I think it was more impactful at the time, like of seeing them going through Tumblr. It's like, oh my god, Tumblr, they're engaging with us. So I see like what a milestone it was, because it was unheard of that creators would like what's the word I'm trying to think of? It's completely gone out of my head.
Engage with their fans.
Engage like with their fans. There we go. But looking back, it's not like that of a impactful video in like the terms of content.
True.
Yeah, we don't get any real any information about them or a lot of back and forth.
Can I interrupt? Because we were joking about Phil being a trendsetter, right? But actually I remembered that Troye Sivan and Tyler Oakley actually did the Tumblr Tag challenge.
Wow.
Which is them looking at the Troiler tag on Tumblr.
Didn't they?
Yeah, so they like fully leaned into the shipping of it, but that's still like Phil is actually like very much a trendsetter in that way.
All of YouTube is built on AmazingPhil's back.
Yeah, literally.
Okay, and then Dan and Phil versus Tumblr. Fizz, how many? I was gonna go with something weird, but I won't.
No, weird.
How many skins out of 10?
Yes.
Would you rate it?
I would give this one. Oh my god. I like it better than My Tumblr Tag. I think it captures the essence of Tumblr more. I think I would give this a 7.5, but like a high 7.5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Ella, how many skins out of 10 would you rate Dan and Phil versus Tumblr?
Yeah, I would rate it 7 skins out of 5, and maybe the skin of one earlobe or something.
Nice and specific.
Yeah, there you go.
I think I would also go with 7. We've all been very samey on this. Also, 7 skins out of 10. I do prefer it to Phil's. There's a bit more excitement to it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the skin fic aspect to it, really, I don't know if that, in some respects, that ups my rating, and in some respects, it lowers my rating. So it all kind of evens out in the end.
Yeah, it balances out. Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the videos. Some final notes that I had. I had to look at how many subscribers they both had in the month of July 2013, just to see a little comparison. So at the beginning of July, Dan started out on 1.8 million subscribers, and Phil had 995,000 subscribers. So, pretty close.
Almost a million. Yeah.
Well, not pretty close, almost a million difference between them.
Yeah,
which is
but
crazy.
That Phil's getting close. Yeah, Phil's getting really close at this
Very close.
point.
And then I looked at the end of July to see how many had gone by. Dan was now on 2 million subscribers by the end of the month. And Phil had got 1 million subscribers, so he'd hit those 1 million in this month.
Ooh, and then we get the 1 million video that he did.
Yes.
Fun.
So, did anybody have any final thoughts on the videos before we wrap this up?
I don't, but Ella, if you have any final thoughts / anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I just enjoyed getting to see a little insight into what Tumblr looked like and how people were engaging with the fandom. I know it's only selective, sort of, what we saw. And there were a surprising amount of things that I could see people making. Certain things I could not see people making now, but certain things, like, especially like photo edits where their faces were like on things, a bunch of times, or just sort of random stuff like that, still kind of ring true to some of the weirdness of the fandom now, at least as I've seen it. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. There's definitely
willing to be silly and
yeah. I think one of my just other things sort of going off that as well is I remember, I think at the time and sort of like afterwards, there was lots of reactions and like talk about, I think a lot of people like reposted art that they didn't make into the Tumblr tags. I think it was maybe some of the later Tumblr tag videos they did, because they just wanted to get noticed by Dan and Phil. Be like, oh, look, my blog was noticed. It's not my art, but I just wanted to get noticed. So it's interesting that like that was like people specifically like did things like that just to get noticed. But it's like sort of just an interesting look at how people acted at the time. And I think definitely, hopefully more so now, people would definitely be against that. I know some people, there were some like reposted things in the reacting to Twitter video that they did, but it was definitely less than like back then.
Back then, for sure, yeah. I remember, you're right. I had completely forgotten about that, actually. But I think we can get into that more as we do other ones. About the reposting. Like the reposted art and all that, yeah.
So that was a bumper episode of Dan and Phil on Tumblr. Thank you so much, Ella, for being our lovely guest.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so wonderful to talk to you guys.
You're welcome. We hope if you want to come back and discuss another video, you're more than welcome to. And if anyone listening would also like to be a guest, get in touch. It's fun. It's not scary. We're very nice.
Right? Yes.
That's what they tell you. That's what they tell you.
No.
I'm kidding.
Mute her. I was gonna say, it was really lovely having you, Ella. Like, thank you so much for joining us. But yeah, no, go ahead.
Fizz, would you like to tell the listeners what video we will be watching and discussing next episode?
Of course. We are going to be jumping into Dance on Fire, which is a rarity on this podcast.
We have just done a Dan is Not on Fire video, but yeah.
We don't do him that often, but we're going to do Dan the Dinosaur, which is not a public video, so it's not public right now.
Hates fun, so he got rid of it.
Yes.
Exactly. But that is our next episode.
Which is very exciting.
But
yes, thank you for listening. We will see you next time. Go and check out our social medias. Go give our episodes a listen, review, all that fun stuff.
Yes, we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.